All right, everybody, this is Sheets. Hope everybody had a good weekend and a very good weekend DFS-wise and life-wise as well. Had Mother's Day and all that stuff. So we only have 6 games tonight, so I'm going to take kind of a slate overview form of analysis. And again, I'm going to focus on process, and I am going to go through who I think the best plays are and kind of how they all fit together. First of all, there's a couple of things that are kind of hovering over the slate. Number one is the Coors game. There's some significant weather risk there, but this is early on in the day. But it's something that you have to kind of consider when you're building your lineups. I mean, you got to really stay on top of it. And one of the issues is that, as we'll go over, the 2 other games that have, fantasy points that are going to rival maybe the Colorado game occur before the Colorado game goes. So it's not like you can wait. And then if that game postpones, there's like good late night pivots too, because the later night games actually rate to be some of the poorer hitting environments. So that's one thing hovering over it. The other thing hovering over the slate, as far as I'm concerned, from just an analysis perspective, is the status of this long relief game, this Miami-Arizona game. Not so much the status, but I want to do a little more digging and homework into this Jordan Holloway, because if he does come out of the bullpen, and we know that he's going to come out, let's say, in the second inning and let him go through as many pitches as he can, or maybe like 50, 60 pitches, and get to that 5th inning mark where you can get credit for that win, then he becomes very interesting at 4K, especially with these expensive bats that you might want to pay up for. But if it turns out he's not going to be given that kind of leash, then he's probably not playable. So that is definitely something that we're going to have to continue to monitor. Well, just not monitor. I just got to do a little more research on it. So that's kind of the overall view. There's no other weather issues. And the San Diego, Colorado game, as you might imagine, is going to rate to be something that drives the whole hitting environment, because it's San Diego, which is a great hitting team up in Colorado. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with here, right? This is a blank slate. And then we're going to start off with our spreadsheet and then come back and build lineups. I'm going to show you kind of how I want to do that. And then we'll do the same thing with FanDuel. So with DraftKings, with pitching, there are 2 pitchers for me that kind of stand out, I would say, and that would be Alex Wood and Tyler Mahle. Like, you see the way we rank them kind of by Sheets value score is like now I should tell you that neither of these guys rate to be that great, okay, especially relative to their salary, but on a relative basis, they're pretty solid. You have Tyler Wood and Tyler Mahle, which for me, a 34 and a 30 is okay. I mean, like when you have like Garrett Cole and guys like that, even with the prices, you're into like the high 40s. But 34 and 30 are both, with this slate, that's just where we are. And then you'll see the next drop down is going to be to Mitch Keller. So, so what I think is that while they're reasonable, I really don't consider them huge must-play standouts, right? Like if you wanted to fade either of those guys in MME, I would give you the go-ahead, because when you go down, I mean, you have Mitch Keller is only, he has a 26. Even Danielson Lamet, who certainly has issues, like here's another one you have to do research on. If they say he's only going to pitch 30 pitches, then obviously he's out of play. But if they think he's going to be stretched out, then even though it's in Colorado, it's worth it considering. But then again, you have the weather issue. So he's probably not going to end up being in play. But Luke Weaver, even somebody like Luke Weaver, he's close enough, I think, to this top tier that he deserves some consideration, as does Kyle Gibson. I mean, the difference between a 34 and a 25 on my metrics, it's not that much. I mean, it's enough where I could say that Alex Wood's my top pitcher, but it's certainly not enough for me to say, okay, if Alex Wood is 60% versus Kyle Gibson, say 10, that I would play necessarily Alex Wood. So when I say I give you an overview of the slate, it's not, this is what I'm talking about. There's no pitcher that is 100% must have on this slate. As a matter of fact, even though it's a 6-game slate, only 6-game slate, I actually wouldn't mind taking the approach of playing a decent amount of lineups and mixing your pitchers around. You know, whenever I have a slate like this, when everybody's kind of on the close side, especially at this lower level, low 30s, I feel as though you could mix the pitchers around. And that helps if you really, really like a hitting environment. The other pitchers don't really get there at all for me, so I'm not even going to talk about guys like Martin Perez and Jorge Lopez, things like that. So again, with pitching, you know, any of those guys I mentioned, Wood, Molly, Wood, Molly, Keller, with all the different risk factors, you're not going to get to them at Weaver and Gibson. They're all kind of playable, right? With respect to the hitting, again, this assumes lineups as of this morning, and you know, who knows where they're going to pan out. But it's not surprisingly, San Diego would end up being my top stat relative, you know, to value and stuff. But I would say that it's not 100% clear. In other words, when I have these guys at 113 compared to like 110 for Boston, that's close for me. Maybe because Boston is just much cheaper. But even when you look at like the raw stack things over here, yeah, San Diego does stand out a little more. Houston's actually closer. But I think that between the weather risk and the bad weather that's going to come if they do play, I don't think you have to play San Diego. I mean, they're certainly good, but they don't stand out. Like sometimes I'll see like based on my match, a modified stack of maybe like 130 compared to like the next one's like 95 or something like that. In which case, you have to eat a lot of the ownership sometimes. But I don't think you have to here. I think Boston's a very, very reasonable alternative. And if you play Boston, you'll see that I do have some cheaper guys in here, which you're not necessarily going to have to play. Like you could end up paying for some of these higher price guys like JD, Devers, Bogarts, whatever. Just showing that if you did go the full value route, you'd want to play Cordero, Renfroe, Marvin, who's going to be good. I think he led off yesterday, so if he does that again, that's great. Verdugo, Dahlbeck is like under 3K maybe. So there's plenty of value in there. And then you have another interesting, pivot off that, all that. That's the Angels. And it's very rare that you get to play the Angels in a stack because, Mike Trout usually eats up so much salary. But there's one real standout play, which you might have seen as I was going through it's very rare that you get position players rated higher than pitchers as far as value scores, but you get Justin Upton at 2,800 is rating as an extremely strong play. So what's going to happen is that this is going to be a much easier, I believe, stack to pay for even if you wanted to double pay for those two pitchers like Wood and Gibson or Wood and Molly. So definitely the Angels are certainly a part of what you're going to do here. And then there's Houston. So Houston, again, they're from a value perspective, they're a little worse than the Angels, but not that much. But from a raw stack perspective, I have them over the Angels and over Boston. So Houston's a team that you're going to want to try to target. Now, for me, when you get down to here, like these Cincinnatis and things like that, I don't think I'm going to get down that low. I think that I'll be able to afford these other teams decently to not have to pay for Cincinnati. But I mean, if it does look to be these guys are going to be all single digit owned, then sure. I think the difference between, say, Houston and Cincinnati is not enough to warrant, say, a 3-to-1 ownership discount or premium. But, you know, I don't know if I'm going to prioritize getting down to there. And then there's a big drop. I wouldn't say a big drop, but then you get all these other tiers over here. So the way I look at a slate like this is that you could either, right, make the case that the hitting is kind of close enough to play a whole bunch of hitting stacks, or that the pitching is close enough that you can afford to mix the pitchers up. I don't think you can do both. I don't think there's a slate that where you can just like mix everything. So you're gonna have to be able to take a stand somewhere. And for me, I feel as though that it's more important to get different on the pitching for some reason over there than it is to get different on the hitting. I'm pretty confident that one of these four is going to be good enough, right? I don't think Cincinnati beats all four of these teams, if that makes any sense. It's possible. I'm staring at this lineup. This looks pretty good with these 5 people. But the only thing I would say also about Cincinnati is that they do correlate with Mahle. If they do well, then Mahle does rate to get the win bonus. If that means anything to you? It should mean a little bit. So what do we have? So we have a mixture of the pitchers. And then we have either San Diego, if it plays, Boston, Angels, Houston, Cincy. So just for fun, I'm going to show you how easy or hard it is to get some of these things in. So let's just say we did, you know, Wood Mahle, for example. Like what could you do if you paid for both pitchers? Well, as I mentioned, the easiest team you'd be able to get in would be the Angels, because as I mentioned, Upton is just so cheap that you could just, you know, plow all these dudes in, for example, and leave yourself plenty of room to do other stuff. As opposed to, say, let's just say you wanted to play San Diego and you wanted Tatis, Machado, Grisham, whatever. It becomes a little more, right? We're already getting into under 3K guy, putting 3 of those guys in. So it's going to be difficult to play San Diego with the 2 pitchers if you want to do a full stack. And let's take a look and see what Houston would look like. So Houston would be Alvarez, Bregman, Brantley, Altuve, blank, sort of. So let's just see what that looks like. So it would be Altuve, Alvarez, Brantley. Did I say Altuve? What's going to be in here? Let's see. Yeah, Altuve. Yeah, so this becomes kind of difficult, right? So to play all the Houstons, it's somewhat difficult. But say we're going to play Boston. I think Boston could be the interesting one because you can probably do a mix of those high-priced guys who kind of list over here and these low-priced guys who list over here. I don't think you need to, you know, do a full value attack. And I don't think you'll be able to afford the full, you know, raw stack attack. But let's just see, you know, for example, let's say you started with one of these, you know, first basemen that don't cost anything. And then let's say that you played, I don't know, Verdugo, Francisco Cordero is 2K. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it makes the rest of this fly. So Boston, because of the existence of Cordero and Dahlbeck, right, it allows you to full stack Boston, you know, and not worry too much about the pitching salaries. So what I think that you're going to need to do if you want to play, say, Houston or San Diego, for example, is then you'd have to start, you know, thinking about playing that projected opener, right? Or who was the 6,800 pitcher that I had mentioned? Keller, right? So if you wanted to play Keller, then, like for example, let's just say if you put Keller in instead, can that get you the Houstons even? Because if you can't do that, then it's kind of silly to pay down for someone like Keller if it's not even going to get you anything. So let's just see what it looks like. So let's just throw these guys in here. I mean, it's still it's dicey, but you can do it at least. But you're giving up a lot, right? I mean, you're not gaining as much Houston over the Angels, and you're giving up like, you know, a decent amount of upside with pitching. You know, if you put a 6,800 guy instead of a 9,800 guy. So the Houston bats are going to be, and the San Diego bats for that matter, are going to be the tougher stacks to get in for you guys. So if it were me, and this is what I'll probably end up doing, is I'll probably focus in on the Angels and on the Red Sox. And what I'll do then is I'll just really go heavy on those two. Just fade Colorado completely, fade Houston completely, and use those lineups that I would have otherwise used those hitters to just mix and match my pitchers a little bit, because it's not like I'm saving that much the pitching wise. So all I'm doing really when I'm differentiating, so I'm going to go from Male to say Gibson, for example, or to Weaver. You know, I'm not exactly like just changing my overall, you know, pricing mechanism, but it allows me to just, you know, just hope that one guy gets, you know, the 25 and the other guy gets the 16 or something like that, which could make all the difference. So that's kind of the attack it's going to be on DraftKings. Let me just pause for a second, and then I will do FanDuel. If you want to just stop the video now for yourself, I'm just going to go to FanDuel for now. Okay, so with respect to FanDuel, it's actually a little cleaner as far as the pitching rankings go. Like I have 3 pitchers as ranked higher enough over everybody else where I don't think I'm going to go beyond them. So for me over here, you'll see Wood, Male, and Weaver. You know, specifically Wood and Male. I mean, they're kind of standouts over there. And I think the reason why that is just because of that 6-inning quality start bonus that, I mean, you really want to have guys, and Bobby has been very, you know, good with me on this one, that are likely to get that. And I guess that's why Wood and Male project to be that much stronger than, say, Gibson and guys like that. So I will include Weaver in here if it makes sense. In other words, if I need to. So it's Wood, Male, and Weaver as far as pitching goes, right? So I would probably do like a round robin there, but right? I would actually, you don't do a round robin because you don't need 2 pitchers. So I would do 3 builds probably. Or maybe what I would do is maybe 5 builds. So 2 with Wood, 2 with Male, and 1 with Weaver. That would make sense, considering how they're ranked for me. And again, the only thing is that you'll see, I mean, this is an early ownership run. Is that, you know, if you do get Weaver at significantly lower ownership, then probably would want to do even amounts of all 3 of them. So let's see with respect to stats, how they look on FanDuel. So on FanDuel, it's very similar. It's actually a little more bunched. So you do have San Diego, who's, again, the big outlier there. You just don't know what's going to happen with the weather and things like that. If you could play them and you get the weather clearance and the weather's not bad, great, but it's not going to be that easy. What I do see is that the hitting is a little bunched over here, right? So Angels, Houston, Boston. Actually, no, these 3 are, you know, stand out enough that I feel as though I can attempt to play these. And likewise, it looks like, well, let's see. I want to see, again, if we play 4-4s, for example, if we can get, you know, some combination of these 3 or these 4 in there without having to drive down to Cincinnati and guys like this. And again, I like to look at the raw thing too. Same thing: San Diego, Angels, Astros, and Red Sox. San Diego, Angels, Astros, and Red Sox. It's the same either way. So let's go into the FanDuel and see. Sorry about that. Let's go into FanDuel. Let's see what happens. So let's do the most expensive one first that we were going to play. So let's say we were playing Alex Wood. Let's see if we can get let's say Angels and Houston together. And usually what ends up happening is you end up trying to find a shortstop. That's the way it goes. But as a matter of fact, Houston has a shortstop that's listed in my group of 4, so that's going to help them. So let's just take a look. So let's put in Correa for openers, because it's always a shortstop that gives me a problem over here. So let's say we did. I see where this is headed already. We're going to try to get all these guys in because the way the positions work out, I know that we're going to want Bregman, and we don't need a Houston Angels first baseman or third baseman, but we are going to want Jared Walsh at first base. So let's just see if all this works. Is there a second baseman? Like, is there possible we can get all these guys in? I don't think so, but just to see. Right. So then, because then we're going to have Upton, well, Trout over here, Upton over here. Wow, almost, huh? And then we want Ohtani and Brantley. Let's just put in Brantley first because he'll probably be cheaper. He's 3K, and we can almost do it. I mean, not exactly quite, but Ohtani 4,300. That's kind of sick. So you can do it, but you can't really do it, right? And I have it ranked by value. So, I mean, the one thing you could do if you wanted, I mean, like if you wanted to take out, Altuve and replace him with, say, and again, we're just trying to get 4 and 4 just for the hell of it. So instead of Altuve, you went to Fletcher. That saves you 800. And then instead of Ohtani, right, you went to a Houston utility, which you could pick from whoever you want, right? I mean, like, any of these guys. I mean, Straw, he's fine. He's probably cheap enough, right? He's probably much cheaper, actually, than 2,800. Diaz, is he playing? Straw 2,300. So you could do it. You just have to make that one concession, which is, and it's a pretty big concession, to take out Altuve and Ohtani for, say, Fletcher and some other idiot. I shouldn't say, you know what I mean by idiot. But remember, that's with playing Wood. Like, let's say instead you played who was the cheaper guy? Weaver. I mean, you played Weaver, and you got lucky. I mean, that now you can play, right? Right now you could. I mean, now you can almost make all this work. So it's sort of good that you can't jam everything you want in, right? And it does make it somewhat appealing to go down to Weaver in some variations. However, if you played Boston, then the world is your oyster, right? Let's just go back and put Wood in again. If you started with the Boston values, for example, even if you played some expensive guys, let's say you played, let's say you played 2 expensive guys. Let's say you played Devers and Bogarts, and then you want to try to play JD's. It's never gonna work. Actually, it might, because let's see, Marvin and Renfroe. What are they? Renfroe is 2,500, and Marvin is 2,500 also. Let's just say either one. So let's put Marvin in the outfield for now. We'll put him first base for now. It's fine. Is that enough to be able to get in Houston or the Angels? Probably not. What you probably need to do, if you want to play Wood with the Rangers, with the Red Sox, and either the Angels or the Astros, is probably not play JD. It's probably play both both of those value dudes. You know, Gonzalez, Bogarts, Devers, and Redford. Here now you can do it, right? Now, I mean, now I don't even need to show you, right? But let's do it. Just, I mean, now you can go play Altuve, Brantley, right? And then you could probably even play Bregman, right? Easily, because then I mean, you play whoever you want. You want to go one off. You can go up to. I mean, there's a lot of guys you can do, a lot of ways you can go. So the idea, I guess, is with in I think Boston on both sites makes it work if you want to pay up for pitching. Okay. Where if you pay down for pitching, then you can get away with, you know, playing all those other guys. But I think that on DraftKings, as I mentioned, you could pay up for pitching with the Angels or the Red Sox. But on FanDuel, again, if you want to play two teams of stacking, I think you need to play Boston to make that work. I guess that's it. I hope this was helpful. I'm going to be back live a little bit later. I mean, with like a half hour to go to finalize all this. But hope this helped give you an overview of what's going on tonight.